We still do 7 NUFC Matters show a week for free. But if you want to help support NUFC Matters, then there are a few ways of doing it. Hit the like button on each live broadcast and video. This helps the channel grow. Hit the subscribe button and select the all notifications bell so you don't miss a single show. If you want to help us financially, then you can join the channel using this button with the membership starting at $1.99 a month. Or you can drop us a donation in the chat using a super sticker. We're also looking for sponsors. If you'd like your brand advertised on the flyers for the show and featured during the ad break, then email John at nufcmatters.com to arrange today.
Just a question of taste with you, well, if you've gone sour, you want the world plus everything, but it won't work an hour. And now your questions are kept creeping, and you go and buy her flowers. You throw away the dreams we had, boy. I won't allow it. I said we're gonna fall out. Let you get out. I think we're gonna fall out. Just shut your mouth.
Good morning, welcome to NUFC Matters, the professionals with some heavy heads. And I'm sure you're the same at this time in the morning. But welcome to Stu and Mitch. Hi, lads.
Good morning, mate.
Just got to say a big thank you to Rob, who sent us this. Rob, who does Talk of the Tune. First of all, hold on, let's see which side I've got here. That's the side of it, right? Well, it's a Polydor album, right? And I've never heard of any of it on the back, but that's not the reason he sent this. He's come up with a novel way of decorating old vinyl. Hold on, I'm going to put this up. Hold on. Very good, that. Excellent. Now, if I had a man shed, it would go in it, but I don't. So, thank you for that, Rob. Nice of you to do that, mate. And that goes along with this. We might as well get this in again. A bit of Lego that we received from YouTube for being a good channel, which is good and good content. People who put good content out. So thank you to YouTube as well. But Rob, brilliant. Thanks, mate. Look forward to seeing you on Tuesday. Okay, we start with yesterday's game, and it was an absolute pleasure to spend the day with Stu, who was still in the UK, but great to see him back home, and we sat together and watched the match yesterday. What was your overall take of the game, Stu?
Well, I'll have to cut through the beers and get back to the game. So, I don't know. I think to summarise, it's probably the flatter to deceive. You know, they had a lot of the ball, but seemed more workmanlike than the flashness that we're used to, like the pace, the precision. I think the phrase I used yesterday, Steve, there was a lack of incisiveness, which I'm very surprised I could say this morning, but there you go. We had enough chances to win the game and to win it comfortably, but whether it's a lack of confidence or they don't seem to have the belief that they've had previously. And unfortunately, Brighton came with a game plan not to get beat, and they managed to achieve that. You know, they didn't offer much at all up front. And I think it was the first shot they had, wasn't it, that they scored?
Yeah, only shot.
Yeah, and what we discussed after the game, for us, the two standout players were, again, for probably the third or fourth game in a row, for me, was Dan Burn and Lewis Hall. But that's a problem in itself. If these are your two best players, considering the rest of the players we've got in the team, it shows that people aren't reaching the heights that we know they're capable of, and that's a collective. So they're really, the team that went out was the team that we predicted would be, and it was more than enough to beat. For me, Brighton team, as I said, didn't offer much at all, and so you've got to be disappointed with the result. Although the performance in snatches was better, and you can see it's slowly getting back, but it needs to speed up now. You know, we can't keep giving reasons why we're not winning. We can't keep giving reasons why we're not scoring. And I think it was Harvey Barnes at Fulham was the last time we scored an open play. And for a team with European aspirations, it wasn't good enough. Yeah, I've seen a lot of people in different bars, but John, I do remember speaking to you last night. Yes, I did continue to have a good night. I've met loads of people. Well, I can't name everyone because it would be unfair to the ones that didn't, but there was one guy, I think it was in Hudson's. Is there a bar called Hudson's down next to Central?
Central Station, yeah.
I was on a good tour last night, like. This guy said, "You're superb," and I said, "Right." And he says, "I'm P88 or B88 or something." So I said I'd say hello to him this morning, but I don't know what his name was. But I think that's what he said his Twitter handle was. So yeah, after the day, I thought it was going to be 3-1, but we never looked like. Well, we could have scored some gilt-edged chances, but if we'd got the first one, I think we would have won comfortably, but we didn't.
Okay, Mitch, obviously you were with Dubai Mags. First of all, congratulations, I believe, are in order for your charity raising prowess again yesterday.
Yeah, Julie decided to run the day as a Pinktober Day for breast cancer awareness and asked if you could wear something pink. So I obliged with a pair of shorts and a watch strap and a pair of trainers with some pink laces in. And Julie went so far as to dye her hair pink. So did Carly, for that matter. And it was a great turnout, 180 there, close to £1,000 for breast cancer charity, which is phenomenal. Julie really does know how to organise stuff, and she does really well with it, and has the support of everybody here in Dubai. 180 turned out yesterday. Another great turnout on a Saturday afternoon. It's just a shame it wasn't matched by a result.
I think overall, the way we played yesterday, the game was very similar to the last two games, Mitch. I think Man City...
Very similar.
And a lot of people in the chat are saying this, we're trying to walk the ball into the net. Not many shots from outside the box. But that one, that's interesting from Andy there. Look, no goal from open play now for 400 minutes.
That was something that we said repeatedly, and we were speaking with the lads and lasses around us in the bar last night. Why wasn't people just put their bloody foot through it? Take a chance, have a go. Or we're playing at XG, or we're playing football. Everybody seems to want to score the perfect goal. I've got to say today, normally after a result like that, by the time I come to do professionals the next day, I've calmed down a bit and I'm a bit more measured in my thoughts and my opinions. I don't think I am this morning. I think this morning I'm still as angry as I was last night. Perhaps will pick my words a little more carefully than I was last night. But other than that, I still feel as angry today. We dominated a game for majority of the first half. And when you don't score, when you're dominant like that, a result like this is always a potential. And then once Brighton had something to hold on to, the manager shifted their formation at least 3 times in the second half, and he did it very well. Did it very, very well indeed to try and shut down some of the threats. I'm really concerned that we are losing our identity. What are we? Are we the swashbuckling free scorers of last season? Are we the organised back four and tight defence of 2 seasons ago? At the minute, we're neither. For me, I think the formation is not getting the best out of the players that we have. And yesterday is one of the first times I've got to stand back and say I question Howe's substitutions and what he was doing and where. Yes, on another
which
day.
Which substitutions in particular, Mitch? Which ones in particular?
Tonali. Tonali for me was starting to make the game tick, and then I don't know how you could predict who was going to come off. And everybody around me said, well, that'll be Tonali off on an hour. Sure as hell it was. And then when we're trying to get back into the game, taking off Gordon and Bruno and sticking Longstaff and Almer on really doesn't match up for me. Or is he demonstrating again while Mitchell sat in the stands, I want something different going on here? Or is he pushing loyalty to players which has been pushed to the edge for me? I personally think we maybe need a change in system to get the best out of the players that we have. I'm beginning to think he's been worked out because, like I say, the Brighton manager yesterday made 2 or 3 changes in the second half to the way he was set up, and it was all to nullify when they did it very well. They had more possession than they had in the first.
Oh, we've lost him. He's obviously got an internet issue. I'll give my opinion whilst Mitch gets himself sorted and comes back. We didn't deserve to lose the game. Brighton didn't deserve to win the game, but they did, and they took the chance. For me, that it's as simple as that. I think that Newcastle's problem simply lies with that final ball and with forwards at the moment who just aren't firing on all cylinders. They can't put the ball in the back of the net. Was it 4 or 5 one-on-ones we had yesterday between Anthony Gordon and Alexander Isak? And if you don't score those chances, then you don't win games. It's as simple as that. And that's the big issue that we've got at the moment. That is the big issue that we've got at the moment. Stu, you disappeared there as well. So
we swap sides.
Internet's going mad. But yeah, I genuinely felt we didn't deserve to lose the game. It's that famous phrase I've used on here before. It was a smash and grab by Brighton. Brighton came probably for a point and would be delighted to leave with all 3. I get where Mitch is coming from, where he says, maybe we've been found out. I understand the substitutions can be questioned, I think, because they didn't help improve things. I thought Tonali and Murphy had, compared to maybe others, had better games. Joe Willock just didn't get into the game. Harvey Barnes for the first 10 minutes, give the crowd a lift, and he got, he almost was like, we turned to each other at the match, didn't we? It was almost like 1 minute and he nearly pulled a level, you know what I mean? It was like almost the most inspirational substitution, but we never really saw anything after that. I personally thought he would have started with Longstaff yesterday. I just had this kind of feeling, especially with that podcast he'd done with Alan Shearer, and I just had a feeling that we're going to see a bit more of Longstaff again. I didn't expect to see Miguel Almiron, I've got to be perfectly honest. I would like to have seen Asula earlier, and obviously he came on for Lewis Hall, which he had to go for it. He was 10 minutes to go, and he had to go over like three up front. But I think we all probably agreed sitting in the match yesterday. Alexander Isak he just didn't look fit. It wasn't the Alexander Isak that we're used to seeing. Has he got doubts over whether he is fit? Is the toe still giving him jip? I've said this before. I've had broken toe myself playing football. You never get rid of the niggle, and as you get older, it does get increasingly more. It's uncomfortable. And if you're a professional footballer who hasn't had a broken toe before, it's difficult to get used to it. It is very difficult to get used to it, and you crack on. You play football, but a Premier League footballer who's getting paid lots of money is completely different to somebody who, has a couple of pints and then goes and plays on a Sunday morning. I think he's still struggling with the toe. I'd love to know if is it his big toe, is it a little toe, what is it? But there's no fix for that. You know what I mean? You've just got to get on with it. And he doesn't look the same. He doesn't look the same Alexander Isak, sadly, and that is disappointing. I think my man of the match yesterday was Dan Burn. And I'm seeing lots of chatter in the chat, which we'll come to, about the back four. And I thought Lewis Hall, with the exception of the ball that he gave away in that first couple of minutes where he literally gave the ball away, and I was like, God, he does one of them every game. I thought Hall was great yesterday. But like me and you said, Stu, when we're coming away from the ground, that tells you a little bit about how we're playing. When you're walking away from the ground and your 2 best players are defenders, So that's my view on it. What do you make of my views on that?
But follow on from what Mitch was saying there about XG and stuff like that. But when we were like free scoring last year and the season before, what we had is we were peppering their goals. Their goal was shots. We're having like 20 plus shots a game, and it's like they've got this hesitancy to take a shot in case they miss, and yourself from Superback, you should never be afraid to miss.
Yeah.
And the damning statistic, easy to say at this time of morning, is we played 8 games and scored 8 goals. We scored 8 goals in 1 game last season. Round about this time, Sheffield United away, and you're not going to get anywhere by averaging 1 goal a game. And that's the area that needs to improve, which is, considering how we played last season, especially how we finished like 3s and 4s and everything else goals-wise, to be struggling to score goals, then it's coming from somewhere. And I'll say something else that might not be that popular, but we haven't won since Longstaff got taken out the team. There you go. So something does the dirty work and allows other people to get further forward.
Yeah, but that's it. He does bring a different dimension to the team. And let's face it as well, it is difficult for somebody like Sean Longstaff to come on and change a game. Mitch, I think you're back with us. There was a little bit of interference there, so maybe unmute. Your picture's a little bit ropey. Is he back with us or isn't he back with us? No, he's struggling, isn't he? He's struggling. He's gone again. Yeah, it's difficult for somebody like Sean Longstaff, unfortunately, to come on and change a game, Stu. I think that's you know, if he's in the team and he starts the game, I think it's a different Sean Longstaff that we see. But you're not going to get him to come on and suddenly put a couple of balls through to Isaac, which, you know, we're going to score from. It's just not the way it works. So
no, he was brought on to allow Joe Linton to go further forward, wasn't he?
Yeah.
And so someone, if Bruno come off and Tonali was off, you needed someone to sit in the midfield. Otherwise, we'll just get another sucker punch again. It would have been 2 down and that's it. So if you're trying to make changes offensively, you've got to make sure defensively you're covered as well. So I've got no problems with Sean Longstaff coming on. It's certainly not his fault that we got beat. Ultimately, it was the players that we've waxed lyrical about for the last 2 seasons who weren't putting the ball in the net, and that's their job. And the defence, for me, is a unit, they're playing reasonably well. For me, it's the midfield needs to be quicker and more incisive, getting the ball forward. And once the 4 players have got it, it's going through the phases. They've got to be more clinical and believe that they can score. And so whether it's a psychological thing or it can change in one game, though. That's the beauty of football. You know, we can go to Chelsea next week and get a win, and all of a sudden we get on a roll that we know we're capable of. But at the moment, it seems to be a case of waiting for things to happen rather than making things happen. And that's not what we're about.
Look, lots of good comments, and I am going to take the time to read some of them out because you know, some people have gone to a lot of time and effort writing them. Mitch has just texted just to say that he's having problems with the internet in his building and he's, you know, Wi-Fi, etc. So bear with him. So he will be back at some point. John says, "Morning, everyone. Please don't be offended by the following. It's in the blood, and one of the advantages of this platform is that it lets you get things off your chest, and the professionals is a quality output. Those Paris nights are about a year ago, and the feel-good factor around the club was huge. But we've now gone from Champions League to mid-table also rans, and there will be a million opinions why. If we were at Portman Road next week, would you be confident of 3 points? I know I wouldn't. I think 4-3-3 is killing us to an extent, and inverted wingers isn't working. We rarely cross the ball, wingers cut inside, and it's never a good sign when Isaac is forced to move wide because basically nothing's happening for him. He did it yesterday a number of times, and Gordon should really have done better from one of his crosses. If only we had another Isaac to create for Isaac. With the version of 4-4-2, we could be more balanced and coordinated, but that's not the Eddie way. And you could argue we're paying the price. Something needs to change, and the sooner the better. Otherwise, the season will be lost and the Saudis might become restless, and you wouldn't blame them. I'm not an expert, and this is just one opinion among millions. If you think I'm way off track, that's fine, and I'm interested in everyone's views. And if it's like a hasty rant, well, what's wrong with that? Let's be clear, though. With the Saudis in charge, our long term is bright. Let's hope the short term can be transferred. In the meantime, any thoughts? Lovely post that, John. Thanks for taking the time to write it. It's interesting, you know, this whole wingers debate, because, you know, wingers are wingers. Wingers are there to cross the ball in. We don't see a lot of it, apart from Jacob Murphy. I've got to be honest. Other players who play wide just tend to cut inside and have a dig at goal. But yeah, I want to extend it slightly, Stu, into set pieces, because somebody has mentioned that in the chat as well, and you and I were talking about this yesterday. Craig Lee says, do we actually practice set pieces? We're embarrassing. And you made a really good point on that yesterday about Dan Burn.
Yeah, well, Dan Burn is 6'7", and he should be dominating set pieces, corners or free kicks. But what invariably happens, he stands still on the 6-yard box. Now, whether he's there as a distraction, I don't know. But someone of that height, he should be standing at the edge of the box and running in, the penalty spot and powering headers in. When a ball's getting dropped in, it's very hard to get power from a standing still position and to knock it into the net. So I don't think we're utilising it properly. So whoever it is, I mean, hopefully there is someone doing set pieces. They really, really need to be looking at themselves and thinking, right, let's utilise our strengths. And if you've got someone with his size and his determination to get the ball, why drop it onto his head? You know, let him run onto it. And I know yesterday we discussed like Steve Bruce, not his managerial skills, but his footballing skills. And he used to score a load of headers from corners. And he's not the tallest of centre-halves, was he? But he would run onto the ball and nothing was stopping him getting that ball, and he would head it in. And we have a player that can do that. And it just seems to be that they'll put him in the middle and they hope the ball bounces off him and they get a flick on from somehow. And it's more hope than expectation. And really for a Premier League outfit, it's been quite poor for how they've been doing the set pieces for all of this season and most of last season. There's lack of variation, there's lack of ideas. And even yesterday, Steve, how many free kicks were taken? We were guessing who was going to take it. You know, it's going to be him. So Tonali should be taking this one. No, Tonali's the best free kick taker. And then he gets pushed off the ball. You know, so they seem to be, there's no cohesion. And this is where the captain should be saying, he's taking it, end of story. And have the on-field presence to make these decisions. If they're unsure, the captain makes the decision. Because if not, you can have then people arguing with each other on the pitch. I mean, not to this the Dialy Boyer style, but you get people, I want to take that. And then get hooked with the other person because they've pulled rank or however you want to call it. So the free kicks, and especially the corners, because when Newcastle are at their best, you can guarantee they'll get at least 10 corners in a game. And if you're just going to do the same thing all the time, and if you can't clear the first man, I mean, that's sacrilege for me. For a professional footballer, if he's crossing the ball and can't clear the first man, he really shouldn't be taking that kick. But again, they said themselves, he was a perfect example. He would run onto it and head the ball. But for me, the very simple choice is allow Dan Burn to be doing that. Get him at the edge of the box to run in. Because if you're a defender and you see someone like him running at you, you don't really fancy your chances of winning this day. So there was a clip, was it at Everton, where there was Ashley Young was marking him, and we still couldn't even capitalise on it. And it's a lack of ideas, or if the ideas are there, they're not carrying out properly. And this is the bit that needs to be addressed, because you see how other teams are getting a lot of goals, and goals get you points from set pieces. So really, they need to be practicing it more.
Andy Ford says, regarding set pieces, we've got 19 corners in the last 2 games. We've created nothing from them. I can't even remember a half chance from any of them. I've stopped celebrating a corner these days. God, it's a reminder to those who booed yesterday, though, and there was a handful of people booing. Certainly, I heard it anyway. I'm sure you did, Stu. But, you know, that's what we used to do, celebrate corners. There is a lot to still be positive about. At the moment, we're in a bad run of games for goals ratio. That's where we're at. You know, we got a draw, 2 draws and a defeat now. And yeah, when our aspirations and our thoughts at the start of the season are all turned to finishing in the top 4 or top 6 and winning a trophy, these kind of games are going to hurt for a while. These kind of results are going to hurt for a while. But you know, football fixtures come quick and fast, and we've got a chance to change it. You know, next week, let's hope that, you know, we go to Chelsea and do something. Lots of comments coming in. Let's get to these. Ken Robinson says, I wish people would stop shouting for Asula. I think he'll be £10 million wasted. He's not an 18-year-old young'un. Good strikers are 70% there at 21. He's not even 20% there. Panic buy for some reason. Listen, Ken, you know, I respect everyone's opinion in the chat. I'd still like to see a bit more of him to make a judgment on him. What I saw yesterday in the brief spell that we saw him was a big lad who's got a canny turn of pace, who looks like he could probably do a job. Let's give him an opportunity, I would say. Give him a run out. You know, if Isaac's not fully fit, play him. What have you got to lose? Kid might score. Kid might score a couple of really important goals. So I'm not gonna say he's a waste of money yet. We haven't seen enough of him to basically give an opinion on it, I don't think. But what I saw yesterday, he made this little run for the ball. I think there's something there. But like you say, he's not a young'un. He's 21. He's got to hit the ground running. If he gets a start, he's got to hit the ground running. James Slater says, great show, lads. Always enjoy the professionals. Do the guys think we'll make big waves in the January window? Always a difficult window to do business, and clubs are reluctant to sell. Stu, I mean, you know, it's getting more and more obvious as the season goes on that we, you know, the two areas that we need to concentrate on as far as the attacking play is still right wing, and we do need it. We do need something else up front.
Yeah, well, we're speaking with Mr. Positivity himself yesterday. Darren worked with me before the game.
He's in the chat.
Yeah, and what we were discussing was been 6 transfer windows with this ownership, and not once have we tried to sign a right winger. And it's a glaring error, I believe. It can't be an oversight, because everyone can see where we can improve. And although they've done well in other places, it seems to me it's been neglected. But this transfer window, it's easier if your team's doing well, because you become more of an attractive proposition to the player that you're trying to get. But if we're just going to be struggling in, let's say struggling in mid-table, as we are currently, you know, let's get no bones about it. We are 8th, and we shouldn't be any higher than that from the performances and the results that we've had. So that now the table starts after like 6-7 games, the table starts giving us true reflection. And I know yesterday, had we won, we would have been 5th, but I think 8th's about right. So it was made clear when everyone, it wasn't me, it was him, it wasn't him, it was me, pointing fingers at each other about the ineffective window we had in the summer. Then I think Paul Mitchell made it clear that it's going to be his windows from now on, and he's going to get the right signings in. So that's putting pressure on himself. Yes, he was buying time, but time progresses, and then you get into January, and he's got to then get these players in. And everyone knows it's a hard window. You know, people are more reluctant to sell at that stage, because they're either pushing for promotion, or they're pushing for Europe, or they're trying to avoid relegation. And all of this happens when they know that we've got money to spend. So it will be a very, very difficult window, but it might just be the time where they're going to have to pay over the odds. But if we can hit this run of form that we are capable of, and get ourselves into the genuine conversation for Europe and for the Champions League, then the player can do more at that end. The player that we're trying to sign, or the players that we should be trying to sign, you know, I would indicate I'd like to go, but we have to make ourselves attractive to do it. We can't keep talking about a project, about future plans, because these players are in the here and now. And I think some of them are playing like they're a bit upset that they didn't get new players in. And even in that Sean Longstaff interview he did with Shearer and Gary Lineker, he referenced that, didn't he? Like, we need to be bringing extra players in to boost the squad, and it didn't happen. So we know footballers can be very precious and entitled, and they think, well, hang on, we've been sold this dream, and we haven't improved. We've just got the same players. Yes, people are coming back from injuries, but we have very few injuries now. So what's the next thing? Is it going to be because Botman's not playing? That's why we're not in the Champions League, because I can't remember Botman scoring many goals for us. So we have to be ruthless, and they're going to have to pay over the odds as well, I think, and to get the players in they need. But that's, for me, that's a conversation that they can do off the field. More worrying for us at the moment is what they're doing on the field.
Okay, Ken says, Steve Astula had 90 minutes against lower league Wimbledon at home, did absolutely nothing. Can't even remember having a shot at goal. There's a reason he's not getting minutes. Again, Ken, I'm always going to play devil's advocate and say that, you know, it was a team, you know, a slightly different team that we put out for that game. I think he did all right. If you look back on the shows, you know, after that game, I thought the second half in particular, when the crowd had given him his song and whatever, I thought he had a decent second half. So yeah, he didn't score, but who's to say that, you know, different games against different opposition can inspire people. Again, it's making a defence for somebody, but you know, there's a big difference between playing in the Premier League and playing against Wimbledon in the Carabao Cup, and I know that shouldn't be the case. He should be just pleased that he's got his opportunity, want to shine. But had he come on earlier yesterday and scored the equaliser, for example, that can change, you know, and that's what can change runs like this. You know, you just need that goal. You need a goal which turns the tide. Newcastle win yesterday 3-1. Suddenly you're looking at Chelsea and you're thinking, oh, right, you know, we've got a chance here, and you beat them in the cup. It's, you know what, honestly, it's an emotional thing. We're all tied into this emotionally together, and we've all got different opinions, and nobody's right and nobody's wrong. That's what makes football brilliant. But I always think that you just need a little bit of calm, you know, after a defeat. We weren't terrible yesterday, but just can't score goals. And I think when you listen to Eddie Howe's interviews, he realizes that he's got to get back on the training ground with the lads this weekend and put the time and effort in to put it right. You know, they need to find a solution, and it's not lost on Eddie Howe. You know, he has to sit and watch the whole game again. I'll certainly not be doing that. I'm going to watch Match of the Day later on today, which will be bad enough. Although David Cook, it was nice to meet you yesterday. I know he's not watching live today, but he, you know, he said we actually looked quite good on Match of the Day. Well, that's because we played well, but we just didn't score goals, David. You know. Anyway, let's get back to the comments. I have what Mitch says. The Wi-Fi is completely off in the building, and he's got no idea what's going on, as has anybody else. So you know, he might not be back. He might be back. We'll wait and see. Trevor, who's in Thailand, good to see you back in the chat again, mate. He says you cannot possibly finish in 7th position and expect to improve next season with the same squad. The opposite side work you out. It's called professional management structure. Trevor, good point, well made. I agree, mate. And Steve says we've got to realise we're a top 10 team. We're not top 6 or even top 4. The two fullbacks are inconsistent. Murphy's a waste of time. But Darren will like that. Shaw's making mistakes. Dan Burn done well, but he's not the future. Interesting points there. I mean, this Murphy situation. Let's talk about that, because we saw Darren yesterday. I mean, we did have a laugh, didn't we? I mean, the first shot that Isaac had on goal yesterday's shoe. Of course it was Murphy who got in the way and it deflected behind for a goal kick. And we're going, oh God, you know, what's Darren going to make of that? Stu said to us, he says, if you're quiet, you might be able to hear him. But yeah, and then we saw Darren after the match, and of course he was, well, you'll find out what Darren thought about Murphy tomorrow, I'm sure, on the fans forum at 6 o'clock. But yeah, I mean, Murphy, where do you stand on the Murphy and Shaw? Let's dissect those two before we'll have our ad break. You know, lots of people in the chat. We see it all the time. Longstaff's been he's been the one who everyone's been having a go at. Then it's been Anthony Gordon, because he's had a poor start of the season and he wants to leave, according to the media. Now, you know, we've gone through this latest batch of games where we're not scoring goals, and rather than Alexander Isak getting in the mix in the live chat today, we're seeing Fabian Shaw's name come up a few times, and we're seeing Murphy. What's your view on those two players, mate? Did they deserve a place in the team moving forward? Are people right in the chat? Is Shaw making lots of mistakes and I'm missing? Because I don't think the defence is to blame. I think the problem lies up front, and I think Murphy, when he's on the pitch, is front foot and he's doing his best. I'd certainly prefer Murphy playing than Miggy.
Yeah, I'd definitely have Murphy over Miggy for this. If you put a few of the things together that's been in the chat, people are complaining about inverted wingers, and it narrows the pitch down. And this is one of the biggest criticisms we had of Alan St-Maximin. He was too predictable, and that's exactly the same as Miggy. But if you get Bonds and Anthony Gordon doing exactly the same, then it doesn't matter who you've got in the wing. If you know they're going to cut inside every time, they need to mix it up a bit and start hitting the byline. Murphy's capable of doing that, and he's capable of crossing with his right foot into the danger area. He slung a couple in yesterday that I believe if Isak had been more fit, more confident and more aware, I think he could have got the end of at least one of them. So yeah, he did get in the way of Isak's shot, and I'm sure Darren will have a lot to say about that tomorrow. But he's not the answer. But if you compare to what we've got, this is going answering the previous question. We haven't upgraded in that position. So out of the two, Murphy's more preferable to me than what Miggy is. Shaw, I don't see what there's the criticism of Shaw. He's part of a defence that's not leaking many goals, and he's very capable of passing the ball forward. But what we seem to be now is, instead of being the fast, free-flowing football, it would seem to be predictable, where we're just it's not kick and rush to the point where it was like Wimbledon back in the 80s, but it's they just seem to be more hit and hope. But Shaw is capable of making that right pass. And at the moment, who else would you play instead of him? You know, I think he's a stand-up player, but he's getting to the age now. He's retired from international football. He's put his focus into Newcastle. This will probably be his last full season with him. I don't see he's merited any criticism so far this season. I think that's a strange one. I can understand like the Murphys because it is frustrating, but you have to understand from his perspective, he's playing in a team that he knows he's lucky to be in. And if someone's going to keep picking him, he's going to keep playing. And we know he's not consistent enough to be performing 7 and 8 out of 10 every single game. You know, you might get an 8 out of 10, but then the next few games you're looking at 5s and 6s. But that's where we are. And that's not the player's fault. That's not the manager's fault. That's the recruitment fault. So I think what we need to do is the players that are on the pitch is back them as much as we can. And we stood at the end, Steve, when they come round and we clapped them. Because for the bad result, the effort was there. But it was a bit like the wolf and the 3 little pigs, wasn't it? They were huffing and puffing and they couldn't blow the house down. So we have to hope and expect that they'll look at how they can fix that and then stop picking players who clearly aren't fit and get a formation that's going to get the best out of the fit players that we've got. And in that way, you're right, what you said at the top of the show, it looks like Brighton got a 31-year-old manager and he seemed to know exactly how we were going to play and what we would offer and how to limit us. But even with that said, we could have been 2 goals clear before they'd even ventured into our box.
Yeah.
Oh, someone's ringing the phone.
All right.
Sorry,
I'll put you on mute. Welcome back, Mitch. Good timing. We're just talking about Shaw and Murphy. Lots of criticism in the chat about the two of them. You know, people saying that Shaw's having too many off days for their liking, and that Murphy's not the not the answer. My point was really that I don't think Shaw's playing particularly badly at all. I think the problem lies up front, but Murphy, I think, is the better option between him and Miggy, which is what we've got at the moment.
And makes a mess of this last-minute scramble to get a right winger in when we've been talking about needing a right-sided midfielder for a while. I don't know how Murphy made it to 65 minutes. That was one of the points I was trying to make with the substitution points before. Somebody was, before I got cut off of my brain, was suggesting about, if he doesn't make the substitutions, he gets criticised for not making the substitutions, which is true. What I disagree with is the order of substitutions. When, to be frank, bar 2 games, Joe Linton stumped the place out all season, and yet he gets full 90. And Tonali, who's looked great in the games I've seen him play full 90 minutes for Italy, can't get a full game for it. Murphy was in there for far too long for me, and I don't care if the choice is him or Almiron. If one's not cutting it, give the other one a go. Don't wait until we've then also pulled Gordon off and other potential creative players. Like I say, I think the formation's run its course, and I think we need to find a different way to play to get the most out of our players. And begs the question about defensive choices. And I know people are criticising Shaw, but would having Guai in that team made much of a difference yesterday? I don't think so.
No,
I don't think so. And so I don't think that's where our problem lies. For me, we shouldn't be conceding from the first shot that Brighton get. We shouldn't be setting ourselves up to be so pedestrian, one-paced and predictable. I think we've become predictable. I think we've lost our identity in that respect. And without Shaw on the pitch, I think one of the few things that was successful were his diagonal balls over the back to try and drop Gordon in. The fact Gordon was unable to make the most of it is a different matter. So again, you take Shaw out of the team, you lose that as well. And I won't have anybody say play him in midfield and sit him in front of the back four. That's not his game, and that's not how he plays. And so I think we do need to think everything through, really. I think it's almost from where we're at the minute, and you look at the fixtures ahead, we've got a lot of improvement to make to even consider taking a couple of draws, I think, in our next 2 league games.
Yeah.
And I think the Carabao Cup game against Chelsea is now looking a far more important game for reasons I didn't think I would be thinking through. But I think it is. I'm genuinely, yesterday is the first time I felt let down. And yet we should still have won the game. There was still enough chances there to take 3 points. And again, we talked about right wing there. Let's talk about up front. If only we'd had an alternative to Isaac that was fit and available and ready to go. We've talked about this biting one the arse plenty of times, and it's biting one the arse again this season already. And it's super frustrating.
Yeah, certainly is. Lots of comments coming in. We're going to go to a break in a minute, but I will get through a few of these because they're starting to mount up. John says, we all know we need a right-sided attacker, but the way Eddie sets up, you need to be left-footed. It's a little bit crazy. It doesn't make sense to me. It's time to move away from inversions. He also says that for the first time, some fans are starting to doubt the manager. Performances just haven't been good enough for the squad available. I just hope he turns it around soon. The Saudis don't do failure. Terry Heel says we're becoming very predictable, one-dimensional. The opposition have sussed us out. And Jody Toon for Life says, I'm not blaming the ref for us not scoring or missing chances, but let's be honest, without black and white glasses, his performance was horrendous again. He's not at fault, not for us not for scoring.
Tell you what I will blame the ref for. We should have had a penalty.
Yeah.
They took a goal kick, and a lad picked it up, and the referee decided to turn a blind eye to it. I'm telling you right now, if that was in Division 2, that would have been given and would have been shown on highlights shows on Channel 5 for the next 3 years. But that referee should have, because the way that lad put the ball down and the way he played it, he took that goal kick. His mate had no right to pick it up. However, if you look at how the rules are written, and this is the get-out clause for inept refereeing, they'll say the ball is in play when the referee deems it to be so, whether he's given a signal or not. And that's simply a get-out clause to get poor referees off the hook when they make fuck-ups like that.
There should have been another penalty as well in the first half, because the ball hit the player's hand. He was on the ground and it rolled along his arm. And it doesn't matter if it was accidental, it's a handball in the box. And it did divert the position of the ball, or the direction of the ball. So we could have had a penalty, but I didn't want to start the show saying we make moaning about missed penalties when it's a team not functioning properly is the biggest problem that we have.
Yeah. Okay. As always, we're going to have a quick ad break. Keep your comments coming in. We'll try to get to as many of them as possible. But here's the ads. A big thanks to all our sponsors, Skips and Bins. You can find them at their website, skipsandbins.com. Contact them, www.skipsandbins.com/contact. Say hello to low-cost waste disposal with pay-as-you-go and contract waste management. A big thanks to Mr. Vicky's Sauces, handmade in Cumbria. You can contact them at their website, mrvickies.co.uk. Email info@mrvickies.co.uk or telephone 01768 210 102. A big thanks to our NUFC Matters fanzine sponsor, United Group Travel. They are the Travel and Tourism Award winners 2024. 2-crew driver and courier, local family company, 3-star plus quality hotels and no interchanges. All excursions included. Contact them at their website, www.unitedgrouptravel.com. Email beverly.ugtl@gmail.com or telephone 01670 632 460 or mobile 0791 666 4174. There are no strangers on our tours, just friends you haven't met yet. A big thanks to Media Arts for all the technical side of things. And don't forget, we are also a podcast, and you can find us on iTunes, Spotify, or other podcast providers. If you want to help the channel, you can hit the like button, which is the little thumb under each video. You can click the share button to share it to your other social media, or subscribe to the channel. Hit the subscribe button, and it is for free. We still do 7 shows a week. Hit the join button, and you can join the channel for $1.99 a month to help support us. We do promote events on this channel. Derek Wright is holding his official book launch at the Tyneside Irish Centre, 15th of November. Tickets are £22, and that does include a signed book. Tickets are from newcastlelegends.com. Gold Star Promotions and Gateshead Leisure Centre are bringing Lennox Lewis to the area as part of his UK tour. You can get tickets by calling 0191 250 5066. Tickets start at £39. The Long Sands are back in aid of Dementia Matters and being supported by Lilac Lane and the Chris Norris Band. Saturday, January the 4th, 2025. Tickets £15 from newcastlelegends.com or from the Clooney box office. Peter Beardsley will be at the Tyneside Irish Centre on the 10th of January, 2025. Tickets are available from newcastlelegends.com or from Woucher. An Evening with the Entertainers takes place at the Tyne Theatre and Opera House, the 24th of January, 2025. You can buy tickets for that now from the box office, 0844 249 1000, or from the website, tynetheatreandoperahouse.uk. And the Magpie Lounge is now open at Gateshead Leisure Centre. 7 tokens for £99. Call 0191 250 5066 to book your tickets today. And the first of those tokens will be the 31st of January, an evening with Lee Clark. If you just want to buy tickets separately, call 0191 250 5066. And the book everyone's talking about, The Entertainers, 1992 to 1997, Kevin Keegan's Legacy, is on sale now. The book will be posted out on the 1st of December, written by Will Scott. Over 30 contributors to this book. newcastlelegends.com or Amazon to buy it today. Okay, welcome back. Mandy Pyle says the atmosphere was bad yesterday. The Brighton fans were good. Are we becoming a club that get behind the team if we are winning? Good question for Stu, because he was there yesterday with me. And it's often different when you don't get to the games on a regular basis. You can tend to pick those things up. So just your opinion, Stu, on the atmosphere yesterday.
Yeah, I think it's been similar to maybe the last 12 months or so. It's whether it's a mix or the different mix of people in the stadium now, and not being able to sit with who you want to sit with. You know, look at yesterday, the rush around we're getting for tickets for my mate and stuff like that. That Mitch managed to swap from Dubai. But then if someone wants to go, if you're sitting with people you're comfortable with, you're more willing to be more vocal. But if you're sitting with people who you don't know, you know, it's common sense. And for me, this is, I know we discussed it off screen, but for me, this is a push for a new stadium where people can get the tickets and sit with who they want to, like a blank canvas. Season ticket holders get first choice. These are the tickets available to you. And what would help as well, if they could have a pay in the door section. I know that doesn't how it works. But for me, sitting there yesterday, there was like, people were as if they were at the theatre, sitting there saying, right, entertain me. And that's not good. That's not what going to the match used to be about. You know, it was like your pent up frustrations from the week. You get out and have a sing song and have a laugh and everything else and cheer the team. But it's like they're waiting to, instead of getting behind the team, they're waiting for the team to give them something to cheer about. And it has to be a joint thing. And then this is why I believe Eddie Howe references in every single press conference he does how important the fans are. And I know it's a lot of it is to keep the fans on side, etc. But we do have a role to play as well. And, you know, if you're in an area that's quiet and you stand up and start singing, you get told to sit down, don't you? The stewards tell you to sit down. People around you tell you to sit down. You know, so it's symptomatic of football nowadays. But if you go to away games, which I used to go to every one, if you go to away games, you don't sit down at all. and you don't go to your seat, you know, you just go with your pals, and everyone just funnels in and gets to where they want to go. And that's why away from home, it's day and night from supporting Newcastle. It's non-stop supporting the team. But at home, it is a different crowd. But for me, there's people that go in there just waiting for things to happen, and we really do have to make them happen. Is it support our? I mean, to get outsung at home to Brighton is embarrassing. That never used to happen when we were rubbish in the second division. You know, we would always still have a sing-song and support the team, and we're watching some dross then. You know, so I don't know. Maybe it's the ones who are more willing to do it have been priced out or can't get in, and that's the problem. So see what Ian's saying there about the ballots. You know, you don't know where you're sitting or who you're sitting with, and you know, there's I think society now, you're too scared to offend people, aren't you? You know, someone's always offended about something. But if you're going to an away game, invariably you're going with a group of mates, aren't you? Mm-hmm. And you've had probably a few drinks beforehand, and you're ready and you're up for it, and that's part of your day. But let's say getting outsung at home at Brighton, but it's not the first time, Steve, and it's most home games like that. But against the bigger teams, or the so-called bigger teams, people seem to be up for it, because the atmosphere against Manchester City, from what I could hear watching it on the TV, was invariably a lot better than what it was yesterday.
Yeah, we saw Mozza as well. Mozza and Alan were both separated yesterday. They got tickets in the ballot, but they weren't sitting together, which is ridiculous.
We're caught chatting to some young fella up, didn't we? Some lad called Joe Walker.
Yes, I saw him. He's dodgy looking character.
But what you didn't know is Alan could see it as well, because he waved it.
Go on, Mitch. You were going to say something.
I think it's interesting about what Sue says about what you hear on the telly, because for me, here in Dubai, I don't know whether it's how they had the mic set up, the atmosphere sounded fantastic. It genuinely didn't sound as bad as what people have made it out talking this morning. It sounded like everybody was behind the team, getting behind the team going forward. And the only bit I heard over the television from the Brighton fans was a quiet period in the second half, where there was the "Where's your famous atmosphere" chant goes on, but they all do it. So, you know, and you pick a quiet moment, of course they'll all do it. But yeah, it obviously sounded better on the telly out here than it did in the ground in person, which I find fascinating.
It wasn't bad. I mean, bearing in mind I'm at every home game, so it wasn't bad. It wasn't great. It was pretty standard, I felt. Yeah, and you know, I think that, you know, it really just depends on the game, and I almost predicted it with me pre-match. And you know, I took Newcastle to win 1-0. I didn't say there was going to be many goals in it, and I was right, but obviously got the result wrong. But I also said, just hope it isn't one of those games where Newcastle get off to a flyer with a crowd 15 minutes in, people are sitting on their hands. And that's, you know, it is what happens, unfortunately. Some people do just switch off, you know, and you're never going to change it. That's football. That's, unfortunately, all-seater stadiums. It's not a Newcastle disease. That's football's disease, because of, you know, had to bring all-seater stadiums because of the Taylor report, etc., etc. So it'll never be the same. It'll never be what it was when we were kids, and, you know, going in the Gallagher end and Lee's end, respectively, and standing on the terraces, and, you know, it's those days have gone. We've just got to accept it, you know. Alan is in the chat. He'll probably be on the fans forum tomorrow night. He says, I think fans expect today that we're going to win every game, Stu. Where back in the day we were hoping to win, so you would naturally went to cheer the lads on. Now they don't. Simple. Yeah, and that's what I was saying. That's the point I was trying to make, Alan. It's like, you know, historically, you know, we've always been perennial strugglers in this division and promotion hopefuls in the old second division, which is now the championship. So I think things do change. You know what I mean? And Yvonne, sometimes, you know, it's not going to be your day. That's just how it felt. There's a couple of other good points earlier on where we're going to go with this. Peter, good afternoon. Sorry, Peter Moran says Tino's progress seems to have stalled. Every team needs a long staff. Trippier's a huge miss. Quality of passing and being able to receive the ball needs huge improvement. Guy Carr, good morning. He says Gahey's not the answer. Turns his backs on shots when defending. He also gives up chasing down back to goal, which I think we've seen a lot of this season, Guy. I think you've made a valid point there. Paul says this is all down to the club's inability to strengthen and freshen the playing staff, with a little bit of being poor at trading players out at the right time. That really has affected us getting rid of players.
As somebody said to me in the bar yesterday's result was restricted by artificial rules to hold the club back nil. Shareholder loans won.
Right, yeah, but interesting way of putting it. See, Dan Smith, good morning. Chasing the game. See a take off Tonali and Bruno for Willock and Longstaff. It's playing madness. A lot of people upset with that. Dougie Morris, good to see you in the town yesterday. Well, he says fingers are still crossed for top 6 finish in May. Yeah, I mean it's a couple of bad results, mate. We all go through them. And John says the entertainers 30 years ago played with a left footer, Sellers on the left, and a right footer was it Fox. It was excellent. Is there a lesson to be learned? And Paul Davison again agreeing about the referee. He says the ref was a disgrace. Byrne got booked for a simple foul. Then Brighton went on and did 4 fouls, which were worse, straight after, and got no cards. Really good point. And Ken just getting back onto Asula says, Steve, I hope I'm wrong. Asula comes good, but don't think he will for some reason. He's now made 29 Premier League appearances. Again, I hope I'm wrong. Yeah, me too, mate. And Craig says, when you've got a spare 15 minutes, look at the goals we've conceded and look at where Shaw is and what he is doing. Barry, again, thank you for yesterday. You and Tom from Minnesota Mags did the live on Big Up. If you haven't subscribed, go to bigup.com and give it a follow. The lads are going to be doing some watch-alongs on there. Barry says, guys, what do you think about the Isaac £200,000 a week contract comment? Can the club compete with those sort of wage demands? Stu, £200,000 for Isaac? At the moment, you would have to see, is he worth this? Last season, of course, superb, but at the moment, struggling to find the back of the net. But 200 grand a week, can the club compete, do you think?
Well, they can't afford it, can't they? Because it'll just be one player getting sold and add his wages onto what Isaac's getting already. But you look at the wage structure, and if he's getting 200, then you'll have people like Bruno saying, well, I want my contract rewritten and stuff like that. But for me, a fully fit and fully firing Isaac is the most important thing we have for that team. I think, well, they're in discussions for a new contract, and hopefully they do. They haven't signed up for at least 5 years, and give him a pay rise, give him parity with the top wages, and you can even write in the contract something that I think Beardsley did and then Shearer did, that they will stay the highest paid player in the club. So if the financial fair play shackles are taken off and we can go out and start bidding and paying big money, then they would get a pay rise automatically anyway. You know, so if we did sign someone and paid them 200 grand, then their salary goes up to that as well. So yeah, we can't afford to do it, but it's not just him. It's you then have 3 or 4 players saying, well, we expect to get the same, and then that 200 grand in real terms becomes 400 grand, and we've still got some players we need to shed. We know that. I think by the time a lot of players are out of contract at the end of this season, there'll be more money salary-wise to be able to give out. But at this stage, there's no reason why. Well, Gordon, I believe, has signed a contract, but it hasn't been announced. And Isaac, these are the ones that we need to be keeping. And if they do get the contracts, it'll give them a bit more stability. And right, I'm here now. Let's show I'm worth this money, because it'll be banter in the change room as well. You know, so it's as it should be. So yeah, I think, is he worth 200 grand a week? Yes, because he'd get it somewhere else. Will we pay him that? Probably not, for the reasons I've just given. But you can always put different clauses in, like I mentioned there.
£200,000 a week for Isaac, Mitch.
Let's say a few more goals off your son before we start getting to that number. And if you don't like it, then you might solve a lot of PSR problems. So I'm very much of the opinion team game, and one player's not too big for it. And I think I'd just like to see more stuff on the pitch at the minute, rather than talking about new contracts off it. Should he be secured? Yes. Are we wary of players with potential parity clauses in their contract? That's always been a problem. That was the problem when we still had Shelby at the club. He had a parity clause in his contract, so every time somebody come in on bigger wages, he got a pay rise for literally doing that. Wouldn't surprise me if agents are worth their salt in that dressing room. That there's a number of players with parity clauses, and that's again is a FFP complication. at the minute as things stand. So there's a number of things you have to look at, and a lot of it again revolves around us allowing to have the shackles taken off.
Okay, lots more chat. Spot on, Paul Davidson. The strength of the squad needs a massive overhaul. The manager knows it, the fans know it. That's why the atmosphere in negative is spreading out eventually, is what Alan's saying. And a couple of people made these points earlier on. Everything NUFC said Eddie Howe will not win anything with Newcastle United. He's had his chances. More players, bits, no excuse. We look like a team that's run out of ideas. It is time for change. I've seen one or two people saying these kind of things. And again, we are always tend to be a lot calmer on here. I know Mitch has already said he's been a bit disappointed and, a bit more measured usually on the tea time after you had a bit more time to reflect on it. But it's, I don't think this is obviously Eddie Howe's problem to solve. And he's admitted that. He's held his hands up. That's what he gets paid for, Stu. But, I just think it's collectively the club's responsibility to put this right in the next transfer window or two. January, we know is difficult, but I don't think this is the beginning of the end for Howe. I certainly don't. I just think we've hit a little bit of a bad patch, and it could all look a lot different as we we come into the next set of games.
Well, I can't see where this Howe would come from. For me, you have to be careful what you wish for. If you look at the last two, maybe even three transfer windows, he's had very little support and been able to strengthen the team. And sometimes you've got to be careful what you wish for. If he was to leave, then who would you realistically guess that would get a better tune-up with that squad? And I think he hasn't been given the tools he wants, and he'll be frustrated. And this is why we'll go back to the January transfer window. He's quite clearly identified two positions minimum that he needs to improve on. You can tell with what happened in the last window and then the late bid for Alanga. That's the players. He needs a new centre-half because Shaw's not going to be playing forever and ever, and he needs a new right winger. But to suggest that he'll go, see, that's for me, it's a knee-jerk reaction, and it's the epitome of society, especially social media at the moment. We're one game away from disaster, but then we go away in Chelsea and win there next week, and they're all heroes again, aren't they? So you have to have a semblance of neutrality about it when you're watching and thinking, right, could he get more out of this team? At the moment, the answer is yes. But is he a victim of overachieving with the players he's got? Because you ask how many would get into the top teams that we're trying to compete with, and realistically, if people are asking about what are the Saudis happy, they've made it clear what they want, and they want to be regularly competing with the Liverpools, Arsenals, Man Cities. So how many of our players would get in their team? And then that takes you back to Isaac, Gordon, and possibly Bruno. And that's the rest is all built on potential and hoping everyone clicks at the same time to get the results that we need. We need to have, we can't have 8 players playing bad and 3 playing good and winning the games. Man City can, but we need 8 players playing good and only 3 carrying 3 players who are not at their best to get the results. And that's the balance that we're not getting at the moment for whatever reason. Going back to yesterday's game, I think if any of the midfielders should have come off, it should have been Joe Linton, because it was quite clear he was going to get red carded at some stage. And although he didn't get red carded, he walked that tightrope a couple of times because that's his combative style. And he'd been warned. He got about 3 last warnings, didn't he? This is your last warning. This is your last warning. But if Bruno was knackered, it was a call. I didn't think he would take him up, but he did. But he should have took him off instead of Tonali and put Tonali in the middle, because he can create. And you could have had then Longstaff doing the sweeping up behind them at the same time. But we can all be managers, can't we? And as I say, I don't think there'll be many people who are bigger fans of Eddie Howe and what he's achieved. But that doesn't mean he gets a free pass infinitely. He has to keep producing. But you have to look at the bigger picture and think, has he really been given the support? And you don't want to get into conspiracy theories that he purposely wasn't, so they can get rid of him. But there's a sense of frustration, and the only thing that can happen to change it is what happens on the pitch. Doesn't matter what they talk about off the field, doesn't matter what they do on the training ground. If they start winning games, then we don't look at things like this. But realistically, if Eddie Howe was to be sacked, which I can't see happen, and I don't want to happen, and it shouldn't happen, but if it did, who would you want to get as a manager with that squad? Because any manager coming in would want to spend money, and they'd have to offer a top-class manager money to spend as an incentive to come. We'll just give Eddie Howe the money to spend and get the players in that he's requesting. And then he's in a position to say, if they're still not achieving, right, we've backed you. But they can't get rid of someone they haven't been able to support. Otherwise, who else could they bring in to not support? No one would take it.
Before I ask Mitch the same question, if we don't get Europe, in my opinion, then it's time for change, says Paul. Is that the benchmark then, Stu, do you think? Would your mind change if Newcastle finish 9th, 10th this season? Is it time then to maybe say, right, okay, thanks, Eddie, for everything you've done and move on?
That's been set as a minimum, hasn't it? It's a minimum to qualify for Europe. And to be fair, they've got a squad capable of doing it. And it's just getting the right tune out of them. And yesterday, for me, will it come on? He is a game changer, but his performance wasn't anything near what he's capable of. So you can't blame Eddie Howe for that. He's made the right decision to bring him on. And we've been calling out in here for the last few weeks about Harvey Barnes being an impact player. And these are the players that we have capable of coming on to change the game. But if they don't, then that's on the player, not on the manager. He's brought them on to do exactly that. So it stems to one thing, and it keeps going back to, for me, he wasn't supported, definitely in January, because we say no one. And then we had that saga with Guy in the summer, where for me it just dragged on far too long. But it's for me, they've identified the positions, and if Howe does get backed, then they can look at him. But for Newcastle, if they do finish 8th or even lower than 8th, then I suppose he would be expecting it, because he would have felt he'd underachieved with the squad that he's got currently anyway. He knows that squad's capable of finishing in the European positions, because it did last season with all the injuries. But in football, if you stand still, you go backwards, and they've stood still. So he's been asked to overachieve again. And I will repeat, he's capable of getting that squad into Europe. And if he doesn't, then yeah, at the end of the season, they could be looking for a replacement to refresh the place.
Interesting, lots of food for thought there, Mitch. And if we don't get Europe, is that a reason to change manager?
One of the few things we do know that's been let slip publicly is that everybody within the club at certain positions have a set of KPIs to which they'll be held accountable for, and that'll include Eddie. And is qualifying for Europe one of those pointers on his KPI? I would imagine so. Whilst it seems to be very unclear about who is actually making the important decisions for the club at the moment, and this is something I've bounced around over the last couple of weeks with both Craig Hope and Mark Douglas very briefly. It's difficult to know what the thinking is. One thing's for sure for me, it's a results-based business, and it is for everybody, Eddie included. And if somebody who is making the decision doesn't like the look of the results, and that really doesn't matter how well we played, because there's never an asterisk put in the margin of a season. When we used to buy the Rothmans yearbooks, there was never an asterisk in the corner of the page saying, but they played really well that day. It's just, did you win? Did you lose? What was the goal difference? And so I think that's a challenge and part of the evolving a new culture in the club. You forget how far we've come in a very short period of time sometimes, and with that will come culture change. And with that culture change comes a winning mentality. And as fans, we're allowed to not be happy when we're not winning games. That's not entitlement. That's just, we're allowed to not be happy. We're allowed to not put up with second best. We're also allowed to be critical of some of the very best players that we have when they have off days. I mean, you've just rightly said, Willock was never really in the game when he came on, for me. When he first come on, he had 2 or 3 decent touches, and then that was it. He just disappeared. And that's frustrating because you're right, he was brought on for impact and to be a game changer, you would imagine. Change nothing. And so that comes back to my point before about was the right player taken off to allow that. Football, Ian, in reply to Ian's point there, football repeatedly, we talk about it being the football family and everybody pulling together repeatedly in all levels of football, both within squads, within divisions, within leagues, within conferences, within organisation bodies, is every man for itself at the end of the day. And clubs, players, managers and everybody else prove that repeatedly over and over again. And all any player in that squad would be interested in long term, if Eddie Howe was to move on, would be making sure he was part of the new manager's plans. And if he doesn't want to be part of the new manager's plans, then there's some more money for the pot to balance the books. That's the way you've got to look at it. Everybody is every man for themselves in football these days. There is no such thing as unity and loyalty and collective agreements, except when it comes to stopping Newcastle United moving forward under new ownership, perhaps.
Are you saying keep the manager and change the players, Stu, says Paul?
No, what I was saying was keep the manager and let the manager get the players in he needs to add to the players he's already brought in. So improve the quality at his disposal, and let's see how good he can be. Because I don't think anyone can disagree when I say he's overachieved every season with what's been available to him. And it seems to be like a leveling out. Now it's a plateau. The trajectory's slowed down, and all of a sudden we can overthink it and think, no, we're going to regress, but maybe we are just flatlining to where we should be, and that's round about 8th position. So, and you can't really blame Eddie Howe for not signing anyone in January. You can't blame him for not signing anyone in the summer. So I think we are blessed to have a manager with a work ethic of Eddie Howe, to have the willingness. Well, if you hear how the players talk about him, he's got a lot of respect of the players. Maybe he is too loyal to them, but if you've only got a limited squad, he has to have that loyalty. He can't be afforded the luxury of swapping in one international for another if they're not performing. So there was a phrase there like, don't throw the Ben, careful not to throw the Ben out with the bathwater. And that's what you've got to do. It's very easy to blame the manager, but if you look at what's happening at Man United, is it the manager's fault or is it the board's fault? I don't really care. But there's other teams that make changes. I mean, Arsenal, they hounded Wenger out, and then it took them a long time to get back to where they were. So for me, Howe we are blessed to have Eddie Howe as our manager, and as long as he's willing to give us 100%, then we shouldn't be looking elsewhere. It's just his job to get that 100% out of the players who are on the pitch, and that's just the frustrating part, Steve, because we know what the kid. It's not a new team he's just brought in. We've seen what these players can achieve for him, and ultimately he's the manager and the buck stops with him. But I think he's got more than enough credit in the bank. But if we come to the end of the season and we're not in Europe and the season has just pettered out, then I'm with Mitch. This game coming up at Chelsea in the League Cup is of critical importance now. We could be in a position where we go there to Chelsea next week and get beat. I think we need to go full strength against them in the League Cup. None of this changing, because we get through that next round. Man City have made it quite clear that they're not interested in this competition, and I think they play a weekend team against Tottenham. So they could be out, and we have a real chance of getting back to Wembley if we focus on that, and we haven't got the European distraction, if you want to call it that. But I'm going from one subject to the other. But with Eddie Howe, I'll just repeat what I said. He has to be given this season, and I think he'll fix it. I think he can put it right, and I think the players are with him, and they'll want to put it right.
Interesting one from Barry, Mitch. I mean, we almost played 4-4-2 at times yesterday with Gordon and with Isaac, Mitch. So, Barry saying with Wilson, near in fitness, would you like to see the two of them on the pitch together?
No, because I didn't think Wilson would last 90 minutes. But it's an interesting idea. When they have been on the pitch together, I think they've played well together. And certainly, was it the game at Brentford? Was the first time we had them on the pitch together at the same time, and it turned a losing game into a win. So, they can play together. I think you then pull in, what do you do with Gordon? Do you push him out wide as a traditional wide midfielder? Or you playing them as a three and pulling Isaac out wide one side and Gordon out wide the other side? It's an interesting thought, but it worries me that his fitness record scares the life out of us still.
Same question to you, Mitch, to Stu. Sorry, would you play the two of them up front? I mean, we did seem to be trying something different yesterday. It did seem as if at times Gordon and Isaac were almost playing as a two up front, and I mean, didn't get us any goals. But Wilson's instinctive. When he is fit, he is instinctive, and he's in our top three number nines as far as goals for games ratio is concerned.
Yeah, the key to that is win. And
yeah.
that's the thing. So if he was to come back, I think he understands now, as much as he probably doesn't like it, he's not the number one forward in the club. And his job there will be to support and push Isaac, because you won't replace them long term if they're both fit. But what it could do, and what it did do for that time that we got into the Champions League, was you could play Isaac for 60, 70 minutes and then take him off to keep him fresh. And then you could start Wilson the next game and a half-time change it. And again, he's never had that luxury. And so I wouldn't play the two of them together. I'd use them to push each other on. And if we keep Wilson fit, as you said, his goals per minutes ratio is fantastic. But that was, again, in a team that was creating chances, and this team isn't creating the chances at the moment. But if he could come on, he could offer something different. If he was on the bench yesterday and fit, I think everyone watching the game could see that Isaac wasn't at his best, and then either he would have had to play better to push himself more because he knows Wilson's going to replace him, or you could have just put Wilson on. He could hold the ball up better. He could bring players into play because they're a different style, and then if there's a chance, he's clinical, isn't he, Wilson? And I'm just hoping that he should be back in the next week or two now. So as long as he is, I wouldn't play them together. I would play them separately and to allow the other one to flourish, because they can get more rest time and they can be more clinical when they are on the pitch.
Okay, the Bruno question keeps coming up as well. A couple of people asking in the chat. Lee Jones says, would you continue with Bruno as captain or look at somebody different like Byrne? Craig says, Bruno isn't a captain for me. Not sure who I'd pick. Joelinton and Tonali have the drive and aggression I'd like from a captain. Yeah, I mean, we spoke about this when the decision was made, Mitch, really. But, he came off a frustrated figure yesterday, chucked the armband at Joelinton and ran off the pitch, obviously, to help the substitution come on quicker. But, he's, flashes of Bruno, of the Bruno we know. But, again, when Bruno doesn't tick, Newcastle don't seem to tick.
Part of this concept of we're having a leadership group without necessarily an individual leader, I still really don't think it makes much difference in modern football who actually has the armband on, other than you won't necessarily get booked if you talk to the referee. That's all it seems to be there for these days, and political statements, and that's about it. I don't think it really matters who's got the band on. There should be 11 leaders on the pitch in their own way. And I think saying this one's captain or that one's captain in modern football is quite irrelevant.
What's your views on the captaincy, Stu? I mean, he's you've seen him in the flesh again there, captaining the team. But you can see my frustration at the times. He's not a captain as such. For me, a captain, he cajoles, he's get your heads up when you go a goal down. There's none of that from Bruno. We don't see any of that unless he's whispering it, and we obviously are going to hear that.
No, well, he's not in the old-fashioned captain's role like we recall it, people like Terry Butcher and stuff like that. But that's not his makeup. But when we know Lascelles even if he was fit, probably wouldn't be in the teams. But he is the club captain. But he's the epitome of what a captain should be, you know, if he was playing. And then that's why people are leaning towards Dan Burn. When it comes to Trippier, when it looked like he was leaving, it was clear that the club needed a captain. And for me, Bruno was the right decision because he was going to be playing every game if fit. And you need your captain on the pitch to have a presence, not like, oh, who's captain this week? You know, they've got to have a tombola in the changing room and decide, right, it's you this week. So do you need someone that, I think Bruno's got the respect of all the players. They all look up to him. They all admire him. They all know he's hugely talented. So for me, it was the right call. And I watched him when they scored yesterday. And to be fair to him, he started like waving his fists, like trying to cheer egg on his teammates. But as a captain, is it weighing too heavily on him? I don't know, but it would probably have an adverse effect if they took it off him now. And they said, right, we'll give you a chance. We're going to take this off you now. Then this would be his last season for us, whether we go to Europe or not, because it would just be, and he's very passionate, isn't he? He would take that as a very big slap in the face. So for me, I'm with Mitch when he said it doesn't really matter as much now. It's more just for the photos and the mascots and things like that. The work should be done prior to the going onto the pitch anyway. And what Bruno should be doing is leading by example in his performance. And that's something that's slowly getting better, but it's not at the right pace now.
The best teams, lads, have 11 captains on the pitch to win a title, says Alan, which is a good point. Sam says, always preferred a centre-half as a skipper looking on the game. Bruno, definitely not a skipper material. And Jules says, unless Bruno says, right now, I don't feel I can give my all as captain, he isn't being stripped of the captaincy. Looks weak and causes divisions, bad PR, etc. In my opinion, to be fair, who is captain isn't our problem. Scoring is, says Trolls, and lots of other comments coming in about that. If I was in the trenches, I wouldn't be calling Bruno, says Craig. John says, after choosing Bruno as captain, what are the chances of Eddie changing tack? Good point as well. And Les says, surely Trips isn't captain because we weren't confident he'd still be at the club, which is probably the reason. Yeah. Tom Dixon made some good points earlier. Sorry it took us a while to get to them. Tom, he says, we've scored 8 goals in 8 games. Everyone knew we needed a proper goal scorer when we went into this season with the most injury-prone players in the whole league. What next? We deserved to lose. Yes, we missed some clear chances. But so did Brighton. We've been utterly miserable to watch all season. Not one game I've enjoyed so far. And even when we've won, we've looked horrible. Some strong words there from Tom today. And Craig said, we should have won the last 3. Outplayed City and poor decision in the final third. Cost us the win. We dominated Everton and Brighton and had several one-on-ones. Could easily have won the last 2 by 5 or more. 5 one-on-ones in yesterday's game. You've got to score those. Can't believe Isaac and Gordon missed 2 one-on-ones versus the keeper. And Stephen Kennedy said, if we're down in mid-table and out of the cup by the next international break, do you think the Saudis will think about changing the manager this season? Will they be blaming Eddie for the striker situation? Of course, I think we've just covered that, but just wanted to get through your questions. And Tom says, do you think that our main priority is to get a right winger? So what will be the main priority? I mean, we're coming into coming at the end of October, start of November. Transfer talk is already starting. Barry's already started knocking his spreadsheet together, Mitch. What is going to be the priority for the club, do you think? You know, as a fan looking at it, what do you think?
Good question, because we don't really know who's making those decisions. This is where Paul Mitchell will earn his corner in the next transfer window, one would hope. That's it. As a fan, I would say, we need to we have a problem to solve at the right wing. We still have a problem to solve the depth up front, and we still have a problem to solve at centre back in terms of future proofing the situation. Yes, we've got players coming back from injury, but they're effectively competing for same places in some cases. I think a right winger and a right-sided centre back, and some sort of additional firepower. But I think also with that might need to come a change in thinking about how we're actually set up and play. Because I do think it's a combination of being worked out and when nudging not quite square pegs into round holes, but we've got too many decent players that all want to play in the same part of the pitch, and not enough in a couple of areas for me. And that's what we need to be looking at.
What's your thoughts, Stu?
Right wing.
Right wing.
Yeah, definitely to give us the balance. We're not trying to shoehorn Gordon playing where he doesn't want to play, or as we talked about at the start, playing people who aren't, for all the love and willingness and effort in the world, aren't capable of performing consistently enough to get us into Europe. We need a winger of Gordon's quality, and that would get more out of his as well. We'd have a potent front three that would frighten every defence. We've got 2/3 of it there, and we just need that final piece of that jigsaw. And I think that one change would make a massive difference to this team.
Okay, a couple other comments. Steve, good morning. He says, I'd like a captain that can win the toss and choose to kick towards the Gallagher end in the second half. That was controversial yesterday, wasn't it, Stu? We picked him on it straight away. Have they changed? They're changing the music now, they're changing the way they're kicking? Surely not.
No, it's traditional. So when I seen that they were swapping ends, I just presumed Brighton had won the toss. I didn't realise Bruno had won it and looked to change it. So if we can give some clarification on that, because it's the way teams always know we like to kick towards the Gallagher in the second half, and they say it's a little win by winning the toss and changing us round. So I didn't realise Bruno did win it, but it was a shock because they started changing, because we're like, oh no, they're changing ends, and we started complaining, didn't we? Like, I can't believe they're changing ends. So if he did that, then I'm sure he won't do it again. He'll be reminded of tradition, but it shouldn't really matter. It really shouldn't matter, but it does.
Thoughts on that, Mitch? Kicking towards the Gallagher end?
When we turned around, our immediate reaction in Dubai was, oh, we've lost the toss. I hadn't realised we'd won the toss. As the song says, there are more questions than answers.
My being a priority is identifying and fixing what's going wrong on the pitch. Too often a fast move comes to an abrupt end for no reason. Murphy did it 4 times yesterday, says Sam. And good evening, good afternoon. I keep saying good evening to Mr. Ice, who was in the chat. He's offering us Salah for 300 million. It's good to see you back in the chat. He says he's laughed, and he's in the last year of his contract, nothing on the table, so we'll take a minimal 300. Nice offer. Good to see you in the chat again, mate. He's a good lad. And what frustrated me yesterday was like what Stu said about Gordon. And give the young striker a chance, who must be wondering what the hell is going on. Yeah, some people agree, some people don't agree on that. And a big thank you to Ian McKenna, who's gifted 5 NUFC Matters memberships. Again, to people in the chat, very, very nice of you to do that, mate. And I'm sure the people who've received them today will be over the moon. Stu, you are going to make good use of your final 24 hours on Tyneside, aren't you?
I certainly am. I'm going to help some local businesses thrive this afternoon.
That's a good way of putting it. And you've got Peter Beardsley, Mitch, next week, haven't you? Coming
next
across
weekend.
to you.
Yeah, next weekend, next Sunday before the Chelsea game, we're doing a Q&A with Peter, and he's getting involved. I think he's got a game of table football to play against the eventual winner of a competition, and a keep you up competition with an eventual winner, as well as doing a couple of hours with me and Julie before the game. And then he's going to hang around, watch the game with me, and obviously be available for people to come over and have a chat after the game as well.
Well, I think you do realise
having them over. We really are.
You do realise, Mitch, that you're going to have to stay sober for part of that to film some of it for the channel, because people will be dying to see some of it.
What were they thinking of, giving me a microphone and a drink in one hand?
It'll be good stuff. Good to see. Hopefully we'll get a bit of footage from it so we can stick it on the channel and share with people. That will be great. Thanks to everybody in the chat. Early one this morning because of Stu's very important mission to keep local pubs alive. We will be back tomorrow night at 6 o'clock with the Fans Forum. Look forward to seeing you all then. If you haven't subscribed, hit the subscribe button now, and we will see you all tomorrow. Take care, Mitch. Take care.
Cheers,
Stu.
everyone.
Hey, everyone. Cheers.